Okay, all right. So we are live again. Everybody, welcome. And no t-shirts today, no extraordinary cup today. Just drinking my chamomile tea because you know what? We don't need to be advertising anything over here or just making fun or anything because you know what? The tragedy has occurred today, and pretty much everything that we cover on these kind of live streams about natural disasters. And at the very beginning, my heart goes out to all of the victims' families. And because of the airplane crash, they are most likely families that are just absolutely devastated, absolutely devastated. So I wanted to say hi to everyone. Hello, Pinizione. TF is here. Amazing. Okay, let's get this show started. I did so much research into looking into like what happened. And one of the reasons I did all of this research is because I saw some of the very political nonsense that was out there, and something about that it just really struck my nerve because with any kind of accident, incident, natural disaster, there's always have to be investigation. And you cannot jump into conclusions like right away. You have to follow the investigative practices. You have to follow the reports that comes out. And with such a transparent accident, the reason I'm saying transparent is because any any investigations that FAA will come out, it's going to be public. I don't trust anything lately that's coming out of like the political side, and this is going to be public. It's the FAA regulations, FAA rules, any plane collision, to avoid further collisions for the safety reasons. This will come out public, and I will be extremely interested in reading the report after the investigation concluded and actually seeing what happened. So we'll do follow-on live after that. Question authority. Yes. So I have 7-page Word document for you that I've been working on. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, why? Because I really wanted to get down the facts. I really wanted to show you. Let me show my screen. This is pretty. It's kind of, I don't know. I think I'm weird sometimes, but it's okay. You know, we all can be weird sometimes. So I have 7-page document for us to go through today with some pictures and some actual facts, because the collision, it really struck the nerve to me. Yes, research. Xana research. Xana research. So the collision really struck the nerve to me because, isn't that weird? It involved National Guard, right? It involved National Guard unit, Black Hawk helicopter pilot. My best friend is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and I was talking to her all day. Not all day, but we exchanged text messages back and forth, and there's some certain things that she really wanted to stress, and I'll let you know that as we're going through the actual events. And losing anybody, right? Any person, losing any person is absolutely devastating. And but losing National Guard people, like military people, because as some of you aware, I'm 20 years military retired, and it just strikes a nerve with me when somebody's out there saying that, blaming the National Guard for all of this, because anybody can be blaming for an accident, just like any car accident or anything. Anyone can be blamed at fault, right? But lives are lost. Yes, everyone remember to hit that like button. Also, all messages don't get cut up in top chat trap. Oh yeah, the top chat, top chat. So before we get started, I did. Some people have watched the presser already that NTSB put out, but I do kind of want to go over some of the highlights with that as well, and some of the Fox Live news. I don't particularly like the Fox Live but they're the local news, so they were streaming 24 hours pretty much, and about all of this. Let's get this party started. All right. So far, what we know is American Airlines plane with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board. They collided in midair with Army Black Hawk helicopter. And the helicopter carried 3 soldiers, and it was near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C., and crashed into Potomac River on Wednesday night, which is last night. At least 40 bodies have been recovered as of 5:30 p.m. today Eastern Time, and law enforcement source told that they they had to stop the recovery operations due to some of the hazardous conditions. And I can the hazardous conditions that they were talking about, most likely because of the debris on the bottom of the river, and it's with the river flow, with the currents, it's very hazardous for divers to actually retrieve the deceased from within this debris. Just like um, when the bridge collapsed and they had to retrieve the debris, and some divers could not go in, so they actually had to get a spike crane, which that's for another live stream. So the spike crane is it's really interesting. So yeah, it's gonna be for another life, and the fact that like how they retrieve that debris from the bridge. So that's pretty cool. And so the plane, it was American Eagle flight 5342, and had taken off from Wichita, Kansas, and it was approaching full landing when the collision occurred. And some top figure skaters from the United States, and they say Russia were on board, and that's the conspiracy theories are going to be flowing because somebody said that Russians are involved, and there are 2 Russian figure skaters on there. But that's conspiracy theories. It's going to be there. Let's see. Helicopter was on. So the helicopter was on annual training exercise flight. And I wanted to stress that training flight because it's every single flight that those helicopter pilots do is a training flight. And my bestie, who is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, she wanted to stress that every single flight is a training flight. And when you hear saying like, oh, training flight, there must have been inexperience. It doesn't matter if this person had 5,000 flight hours or 1,000 or 100 flight hours. Every single flight is a training flight. And if you carrying somebody on board, like any kind of VIPs, it's a training flight. If you going to respond to the fires, it's a training flight, because we learn every single time we go, right? So when people say like it's a training flight, it was an annual training exercise flight that they have to fulfill per requirements. So, and then flights, basically flights at Reagan National Airport, they have resumed as of this morning. And also, I did like a little minute by minute breakdown of what happened, and we'll go into it in a little bit. There is, oh my goodness, there is a video that I really wanted to share with you. So there's this pilot is talking about his theory, what happened, and he breaks it down way better than I can, because I'm not a pilot, but he breaks it down like way better than I can. Hi friends watching on the big screen. Whoa, wow, Xana on the big screen. Omnia's Shadows, welcome, 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 welcome. Large. Okay. It's good to see everybody in the chat. It's pretty amazing. It's good to see all the new faces and older faces, and diehard fans. I'm not saying old, not like really old, because I feel old sometimes, especially early in the mornings. But where all my tabs went? Where are all my tabs? I was preparing for it all day today. And I think that chamomile tea is really hitting me right now. Where are all of my tabs? Bear with me here. There you go. All right, so some of the details. Okay. Let me know if the audio is working. Of course. Of course it's gonna load very slowly.
Well, we begin tonight with the aftermath of one of the deadliest aviation disasters in years. An American Airlines regional flight bound for Reagan National Airport and a U.S. Army helicopter colliding in midair last night. 64 passengers.
By the way, the images that I will be showing might be triggering to some people. So please, if it's triggering to you, you can pass it through or mute it.
And crew plus 3 soldiers, all now presumed dead. And tonight we're learning new insight behind the investigation of officials working to figure out how this could happen. Crews worked throughout the night and today in a massive and desperate effort to reach any victims from the midair collision. The DC fire chief today confirming they are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery one. Just hours ago, National Transportation Safety Board investigators provided an update into their search of the crash site. Investigators say almost 24 hours later, they have still not been able to recover those flight recorders for either aircraft. We also now know the NTSB will have 30 days to submit a preliminary report about the crash. The NTSB also confirmed that at this time, it does not know enough to rule in or out human or mechanical factors that led to the crash. 2 sources familiar with the operation also just told ABC News dive teams are done on the Potomac because they have recovered all the bodies that they are able to without moving that fuselage. The crash happened around 9 in the evening DC time. So here is one of the early moments when it was first reported.
The accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. It's east of the approach end of runway 33.
And from there, over 300 responders arrived on scene. We also know more details about the aircrafts involved. The commercial airline was a Bombardier CRJ-71. It was flying to Washington, D.C. from Wichita, Kansas. The military helicopter involved was a UH-60 Black Hawk from Fort Belvoir.
I have a video for you. I actually went into Flight Tracker and was able to record it, like actually go back and track the flight and everything. So I have a video for you with the actual collision. and some of the helicopters in the area afterwards.
That was on a training mission. The actual collision happened just 3 miles away from the White House, with debris landing in the Potomac River. The jet was at around 400 feet altitude, just minutes away from landing at the Reagan Airport. Now, the collision is a rarity in the context of recent modern aviation history. The last deadly crash involving a U.S. commercial airline.
So, yes, I honestly believe that we actually will know the truth. Because I know there's some people saying out there like, will we really, because of the administration or anything, but I believe that we will know the truth like when FIA comes out, because it's such a public, such a like everybody in the world is reporting on this right now, and I have seen so many different reports from Germany, from Poland, and multiple other countries. And because this is, if it was an arrow, if it was a either flight arrow, or the flight crew, or Black Hawk, or somebody on the ground from the tower, those kind of things that needs to be fixed all over the world. And another reason why these reports are really get shared. I used to work as emergency manager. Like when I used to work for NASA, I actually worked on the air at the airport, and I got to get to know some of the FAA regulations about certain things. It's really interesting to read the reports and how they're constructed.
Occurred 15 years ago near Buffalo, New York. A Continental Airlines flight operated by Colgan Air crashed into a house. Everyone on board the plane died.
Okay, so it was actually at 200 feet. It was not 400, it's 200 feet. And 200 feet was the requirement, was the highest requirement for that area, because it's a Class B airspace, which is one of the most controlled airspaces around this area, because you have Pentagon, you have the White House, and then this is one of the busiest airports. And the helicopters, they are 200 feet and below, supposed to be flying, and the plane was actually coming into runway 33 instead of 1, and they got diverted. They got diverted in midair to actually. Well, we can listen to the recording, to the air traffic recording in a little bit. So they got diverted in a midair to see if they can land on runway 33 instead of 1. And I can show you in the video, like the video that I put together. You'll be able to see like exactly where the runways are located at.
That included 45 passengers, 2 pilots, and 2 flight attendants. The death toll was 50. Now, in another airline tragedy that happened this month over 40 years ago, an Air Florida flight also fell into the Potomac River in 1982. That crash led to the deaths of 70 passengers and 4 crew members. It was eventually attributed to bad weather. Passengers of other flights and eyewitnesses to the crash shared their immediate reaction to hearing and even seeing the collision with our sister station in Washington.
We didn't know what was happening at first, and then it was on the news, and people were texting us, and everything was pretty scary.
So our plane was starting, and we just saw two. It looked like a flash of fire, and we didn't understand what was happening. The person sitting next to me just said, "What's that?"
Okay, so at 5:52 p.m., the American Airlines flight 5342 took off from Dwight Eisenhower National Airport in Wichita, Kansas. Actually, let me share this document instead. So this one right here is the airplane is going. This is a bit of a nerdy flight tracker that I kind of like put together. I mean, like I kind of looked it up, and let me share another screen with you, so that way you get to see it. my little research data. Okay, so we had 5:22 p.m. Flight took off from Dwight Eisenhower National Airport. 8:15 Eastern Time, the plane appeared to begin its descent, going from 37,000 feet to 36,000 feet, continued down from there. And you can tell right here. Let me move the screen. Okay, so you can tell right here. So this one, this is the airplane path, and then this is the helicopter path. And at 8:39, the New York Post reports the military helicopter takes off for a training exercise out Fort Belvoir. And then I'm gonna share this post really fast. So, like I said, training exercise, you have to, no, I'm actually not going to share the post. So for the training exercise, it's annual training exercise. Remember that, annual training exercise. It's not a training flight. They were not training them to fly in that area. It was annual training exercise. And there we go. So annual training exercise. And according to New York Post, the plane begins approaching runway 33 following a request from air traffic control a few minutes earlier that asked flight 5342 if it could switch to runway. Controllers clear the jet to land there, and flight tracking sites show the plane adjust its approach to its new runway. And 8:47, the audio is a respected source. So from liveatc.net, and plus we can listen to the audio in a little bit. A respected source for in-flight recording captures the final communications between air traffic control and 3 crew members of the helicopter. And then their call sign was Pat 25. Before it collided with bombardier jet called CRJ, they tell the helicopters to pass behind the airplane. Pat 25, you have a CRJ in sight. Pat 25, pass behind the CRJ. An air traffic controller tells the helicopter crew. So this is what, just kind of for the size comparison. So the Army Sikorsky Black Hawk, so it's about like 19 meters long, and Bombardier is 32 meters long. Just kind of to put it in perspective, like what the sizing wise they are. So there was no reply from the helicopter. Around the same time, the plane's radio transporter stopped transmitting about 732 meters short of the runway, roughly over the middle of the Potomac River. Also at 8:47 p.m., another aircraft calls into the air traffic control after apparently seeing the crash. And then the Stanley Tower, did you see that? And we'll listen to that in a minute. The plane's data tracking stops about 375 feet, according to data flight aware. I have videos for you for this. Let's get some videos going. Actually, you know what? I have something better than a video. I actually have a flight tracker. It's gonna be way better than that. And once I pull all of this up, yeah, we're gonna go into the flight tracker, and then I'll be able to show it to you through the flight tracker. It'll be interesting to see an interaction. Let's see. So when they said crash, 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 this is an alert 3. An air traffic controller can be heard saying in audio from around the time of the crash. Around the same time, air traffic control tells other planes bound to runway 33 to go around. They ask at least one pilot whether they have any searchlights on board that could help rescue crew. 8:53, Washington Metro Police began receiving calls about the crash. And 8:55, the airport is closed. And 8:58, emergency responders arrive at the scene of the crash and find an aircraft in water. And 9:09, the Sea, Fire, and EMS post about the crash on social media and confirm small aircraft down Potomac River, vicinity Reagan National Airport. 10, American Airlines released a statement confirming the flight was involved in an accident. And 16 p.m. Reuters post a video showing emergency vehicles and boats deploying to Potomac River, and on and on and on and on. Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. So these are some of the photos. I really need to switch to OBS instead of StreamYard. It'll be easier for me to switch between the screens. So these are some of the photos of the crash itself. So this is the helicopter. And this is a bit of a close-up of a helicopter in here. There's some of the IR photos of the crash. And I got 3 videos with you. But right now, let's watch some news and then some of the live news and see what they're saying at the moment. Because I really wanted to show this other video of this pilot talking, and the way he breaks it down is very, very, very interesting. Yeah, it's Fox News. They're like, I'll be right back. They have some of the commercials and everything. It's funny. All right, let's check this out. Oh, wait, where did it go? Yep, they still have commercials. Coverage. I do really want to watch. I want to watch the press conference. I know some of the people already seen it. I didn't watch the press conference yet, because I wanted to do kind of like a bit of a live reaction to the press conference. And we don't have to watch all of it, just some of the highlights. There it is.
Wading through that water last night, and here we have the press.
Of course, it's gonna load very, very slow. I swear, every single time I stream around this time around, probably everybody's using the bandwidth to game around.
Deep. It's about waist deep, and that's why you can.
Come on. You can do it. You can do it. You got this. You got
Safety
this.
Board. The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress.
Let me know if you can hear it. Put thumbs up if you can actually hear it.
Accident and serious incident in the United States and significant events in other modes of transportation. I want to start by expressing our deepest condolences, our sympathies on behalf of the entire board for those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. Our thoughts, our prayers are with you. Entire communities were affected, and we are thinking of you. With me today is Bryce Banning. Bryce is a senior aircraft accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. He's also going to serve as our investigator in charge of this investigation. Also with me today is the entire board. We have Todd Inman, Member Todd
Me.
Inman. Todd is going to serve as the board member on scene, the spokesperson for this investigation. All of the
I
board
speed it
members
up a
will
little
be
bit.
here. We have Vice Chairman Alvin Brown, Member Mike Graham, who lived in Wichita for 20 years, and we also have Member Tom Chapman. The NTSB's headquarters is just a mile from here. And so we are all here because this is an all hands on deck event. And we're here to assure the American people that we are going to leave no stone unturned in this investigation. We are going to conduct a thorough investigation of this entire tragedy, looking at the facts. Now, with that, I want to level set. When we go to the scene, and we were here last night, we allow the responders to do their important safety mission, which in this case was search and rescue and recovery. We stand back to allow them to do their important safety mission. And so this for us is our first full day on scene with our entire crew coming together. We have about nearly 50 people on scene, and in addition to our resources back at headquarters in our labs and throughout the agency.
Hold on, I want to actually answer this really fast. Omnius Shadows. You mentioned that if you're piloting $6 million aircraft, you should know basic maneuvers, but they could have been a pilot that's way too comfortable. If you actually listen to the air traffic control, or like the air traffic that was happening, the conversation that was happening in between, there were blind spots. You know how we drive, and sometimes we have blind spots when we cannot see the vehicle, and then we just maneuver the vehicle just with our instincts pretty much, right? And then there's a collision. So the fact that they actually cleared they cleared the visuals, and they said they asked the tower. I don't particularly remember the verbiage that they said, but so they when they say like visuals cleared and everything, basically they're flying in kind of blind to making sure that they are going into the traffic, right? See, the same thing when you listen to it, the same thing, and it'll actually make more sense like once we get a little bit more breakdown from this. I'm going to use this like pilot's video because the way he did a breakdown was fantastic. And if you really listen to it, the whole conversation between the helicopter, like the pilot, the tower, the whole conversation was very it's very normal. Like it wasn't about the experience of the pilots. It wasn't about the experience of the airplane pilot or the Black Hawk helicopter pilot. And like, yes, they know their maneuvers, they could be at fault, but they're also the towers involved as well. So that could be at fault as well. And it could have been because there's only one person that's navigating this stuff. That could be that too. There's so many more, but I don't think this actually, it's not nice, man. It's not nice. Come on. But anyways, that could have been a little bit more comfortable, but it's still, there's like, if you really listen to it, it's like, oh, they had no time. Like they had zero time to maneuver out of the situation. It's not like in the movies, like, oh, helicopter, oh snap, shh, some John Wayne type deal maneuver, but they literally had zero time. And plus, think about this. When all of this is one of the busiest airports, right? There are so many different lights. I've actually been to this airport not long ago, and there are so many different lights. There are planes coming in and out everywhere, right? So, and then they're like all the planes coming in and out, and it's not very. It's actually like, I would say, really hard to see what light is which as well, unless you get a direction from the tower or you get like a visual clearance. So it's just it. Yeah, I would not jump into the inexperienced conclusions. Anyways, not mean to attack you, not mean to attack you, just mean to clarify because we're here about the facts. All right, let's continue on with this one.
So with that said, we are not going to get into specific facts in this press conference. I want to level set here. We're going to get into our investigative process. As we are able to confirm factual information, we will provide that. I do want to say this is a whole of government effort. I was able to brief, along with others, the President of the United States and the Vice President this afternoon. I want to thank them for their leadership, for their tremendous support of the NTSB, for our investigators, and for the responders that are on scene doing the important mission. I also want to thank Secretary Sean Duffy, who I was communicating with early on after we first got word of this tragedy. We've been working together throughout the day, along with his team at the DOT and within FAA. I also want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was also integral in working with us today. Chris Rocheleau, the acting administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration. We've heard from many members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. And so I will say this is a tremendous, one more time, whole of government effort. I also want to take a moment and thank the many, many responders that have been on scene. It has been an incredible effort. And I will have a full list that I will provide, that we will provide tomorrow. But I do want to thank them for all their work. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Member Inman for additional remarks.
So today is our first real day on scene. Our investigative team will be on scene as long as it takes in order to obtain all the perishable evidence and all the fact finding that is needed to bring us to a conclusion of probable cause. Our mission is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from happening again. Since we're just beginning our investigation, we don't have a great deal of information to share right now. We will keep you informed by giving regular updates as we learn more. Our intention is to have a preliminary report within 30 days, and the final report will be issued once we've completed all of our fact-finding and investigation. Now, we will not be determining the probable cause of the accident while we are here on scene, nor will we speculate about what may have caused this accident. Today, we will be going and having an organizational meeting and establishing our parties to our...
Okay, I really like the fact that he said we would not be speculating. We would not be speculating because it's right now it's about the investigation itself.
Investigation. We currently have the following parties that are already identified: PSA Airlines, GE Aerospace, Sikorsky, FAA, NACTA, which represents the air traffic controllers, ALPA, which represents the pilots, Army, AFA, which represents the flight attendants.
Oh, one other thing, it was kind of funny. So I was going around like the internet, just kind of seeing like what other people saying. There's some people are saying like, well, it's a Sikorsky helicopter. It's not a Black Hawk. Long pause. Yeah, Sikorsky makes Black Hawks, and that some other people were saying like, oh, why is it Sikorsky? Is it Russian based? Is it Russian based? No, it's actually an American made company that makes Black Hawks. Anyways, that was my 2-cent rant right there.
The Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be an accredited representative under Annex 13 of ICAO. They will be supplemented by MHIRG as a technical advisor. They were previously known as Bombardier. The NTSB offers this party status to those companies, government agencies, and associations that have employees, activities, or equipment involved in the accident. We offer that because they will provide technical expertise and relevant information supporting the development of the best possible factual record. Once they join this investigation, they are not permitted to release documents or talk publicly about the investigation without the consent of the NTSB. So I want to stress this. It is only the NTSB that will provide information related to this investigation, with one exception, regarding the fatalities that occurred That notification will be handled by the DC medical examiner. We will not be discussing fatalities or names. That will be handled by them as the proper authority. So we want to talk a little bit about our process. We will analyze the facts, determine the probable cause of the accident, and then issue a report of those determinations. I also want to talk a little bit about some additional people that are here with us, and they're very important to us, and that is our family assistance group. Later today, we will be briefing the families. We normally try to do this before a media event, but in this case, they're still arriving. Our family assistance specialists are already working closely with local officials and others to help assist them in their efforts to support everyone that's affected by this accident. And let me just reiterate what the chair said. The loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States. And our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, it affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened. We will do it factually, and we will do it accurately. As part of this, we're going to be standing up some specific working groups. Those working groups will be operations. They will be looking at the history of the accident flight and crew members' duties for as many days before the crash as appears relevant. We'll be forming a structures group, which will be the documentation of the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculation of impact angles to help determine the plane's pre-impact force and altitude. We'll have a power plants group. They will do the examination of the engines and the engine accessories. We'll have a systems group. They will study the components of the plane's hydraulic, electrical, pneumatic, and associated systems, together with the instruments and elements of the flight control system. We'll have an air traffic control group. They will do reconstruction and review of air traffic control systems provided to and including acquisition of pertinent flight track surveillance information, what you might typically think of as radar or ADS-B, along with controller pilot communications. We will also have a survival factors group. They will be doing the documentation of impact, forces and injuries, community emergency planning, and all crash and fire rescue efforts. Also, due to the unique nature of this crash, we will be having a helicopter group as well. Lastly, we will have a human performance group, and this will not be its own group. It will actually be a part of the operations, air traffic control, and helicopter groups. They will study crew performance and all before the accident factors that might be involved in human error, including fatigue, medication, medical histories, training, workload, equipment design, and work environment.
I'm telling you, these guys do not F around, because when they did investigation into the trail derailment that happened in Ohio, I've read the report, and I actually did a research paper for my school about this, and they were thorough. They were so thorough to the point of like medical histories of, of all the people who were involved like in this train derailment, and like everything they were thorough from testing the grounds, they from like the EPA came out and then they did investigation report, and these guys do not mess around at all when it comes to investigations like these, because, well, first of all, so let's definitely leave the politics out of this, because this is an accident, 100% accident, right? 100%. And yes, somebody is always at fault, or something, engine or anything malfunctioning, something is always at fault of an accident, right? Because, it's a disaster, it's a man-made accident. And when you leave the blaming game and then stick straight to the facts, you want to do as much research, as much investigation into the accident so you can prevent it in the future. So these guys right here, that NTSB, they do not mess around when it comes to investigations. And I read some of the other reports, and I'm actually impressed. I'm impressed how thorough they are, and I cannot wait for them to come out to actually release that accident report, which will be public information. Hence, like why all of the flights are public information, and then that's why there's a flight tracker and everything else. So I'm going to be really, really curious to read that report, and we'll do a live about it as well. All right, let's continue on.
Now we're going to take a few questions that I will again stress. We don't have a lot of information. We will continue to gather that. We will try to release it as we can, but we'll only talk about the facts of the case that we know right now. I'm going to ask, we're calling a few people. I'm going to ask that you state your name and affiliation.
James Matthews from Sky News. So we heard from President Trump talking about PEI, island forces, doing the FAA and associating that with.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't hear the remark.
200 feet. Remember, 200 feet. So the higher you go up. Well, actually, it all depends of the cloud coverage as well. So I'm not a meteorologist, so I would say at 400 feet. But the freeze factor or the temperature, it wouldn't particularly matter at the point, because it's temperature controlled. The inside cabins are temperature controlled. I know some Black Hawk helicopter guys that can fly in like really, really crazy conditions, and there are just temperatures here and there, and yeah. All right, let's continue on. I should have got my friend over here on the live stream to talk about it.
We look at
I'll talk to her to see if she wants to do a live stream.
So we will look at all the humans.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to my friend to see if she wants to do a live stream sometime like on Saturday maybe, because she's working. I could stop. So maybe if I can interview her, that would be fantastic. If we can do that, then she can talk a little bit more about the actually flying the Black Hawk helicopter.
That were involved in this accident. Again, we will look at the aircraft, we will look at the helicopter, we will look at the environment in which they were operating in. That is standard in any part of our investigation. I'll turn it back.
Chair, can I ask you, has the flight data recorder been recovered yet? And what is the difficulty in a water disaster like this, which presents a very difficult environment for your investigators and people out of the water?
Well, the question was on the flight data recorders. And we have not recovered the flight data recorders yet. We know they're there. They are underwater.
Oh, so they, as of right now, they actually have recovered the black boxes, both of the black boxes from the airplane and the helicopter.
This is not unusual for the NTSB. We have many times recovered flight data recorders in water. We have our lab right here that is about a mile from the NTSB, so it's not unusual. And once we get those, we'll be able to get those read and information from them to be able to provide further information to you. I'm going to turn it back over to
Dennis Rutherford with CBS News. Earlier today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said a mistake was made last night. Based off of you all's initial investigation and preliminary findings, have you all been able to tell whether this was human error or mechanical failure?
The question was, has there been human error or mechanical failure? We don't know what we know just yet. We do not know enough facts to be able to rule in or out human factor, mechanical factors. That is part of the NTSB investigative process, where all of these groups will come together. It's one of the reasons why the NTSB is known as the gold standard. We will take the time that's necessary. But I'd also like to reiterate, if we find something that is a significant issue that warrants immediate action, we will not hesitate to make those recommendations and make them public. With a good track record on that, we want to continue doing so. Sir.
Well, Sir Tom Costello with NBC News. Does it hurt your investigative process, maybe for the chairman, does it hurt your investigative process at the president already suggested possible causes here as you try to keep an open mind and begin this investigation?
Tom, with all due respect, I think the press also likes to state what probable cause is before we get to the probable cause. So what I'm going to say is you need to give us time. You need to give NTS, it's not that we don't have information. We do have information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time to make sure it is accurate. That's best for you. That's important for the families. It's important for legislators who are seeking answers to try to figure out what they're going to do about this. And so it will take time. We do have a lot of information, but we need some time to verify that.
Yeah, Member Trace Williams with Fox Business. I'm wondering about the conditions of the tower last night. Were there any performance issues in the past with these controllers? Anything with that?
The question is about controllers. As I said, we are just now forming the groups. The controllers do have union representation, which they're entitled to. They'll be working with our party system.
Yeah, it paused. It's because I opened the flight radar and it decided to pause on us. Now it's like super loading. No, come on, computer. You can handle this. You can totally handle this. You can handle it. Come on. It's Black Mirror and us. I know. Technical difficulties. Please stand by. Come on. Yeah, it's because like I open a flight tracker, right? So I can find the actual flight, and then you guys get to see in real life like what happened and stuff. But yeah, I guess let me close this one, and then so that way it can play, because obviously my computer cannot handle the multiple things at once. Computers, you know. Please stand by. There are some technical difficulties because it's Black Mirror and us. What? Do 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 do. Okay, so you got fair skies visibility 10 miles. Arctic front was not in effect. Temperature much warmer. Yeah, I honestly don't think the temperature was part of it. Presser. Okay, so we got about 10 more minutes of the presser. Please stand by. Please stand by. I'm Slim Shady. There you go. We got it. Come on, Pooter. Yeah. Come on, Pooter. Work. Oh my goodness. Yep, computer said nope.
I'm wondering about the conditions in the tower last night. Were there any performance issues in the past with these controllers? Anything of that?
The question is about controllers. As I said, we are just now forming the groups. The controllers do have union representation, which they're entitled to. They'll be working with our party system and our party groups. They'll be conducting interviews. Those interviews will need to be analyzed, transcribed, and other team members will need to look over it. It will be a long process, but we'll go through the entire history.
Sure. So the question was about my briefing for the president and the vice president. As is standard, we offer briefings on our process and what we know. And this was a briefing with the president and vice president and with Secretary Duffy and Secretary Hegseth and also the acting administrator of the FAA. There was.
So I think this is, like I said, this is me speculating. I don't think it's a malfunctioning of equipment. I honestly do believe it was a human error and miscommunication. It wasn't as in somebody did a really bad job. It was miscommunication. That's my, if anybody wants to hear my opinion, this is Xana's opinion, is 100% miscommunication. And because there are all these people have to go through so many hours of training just to do their job. So yes, miscommunication, and I think that was the error of this.
Discussion on what we know so far and our process, and that was about it.
Now, so when you said similar to the concept question, the president has stated will make a pause in the crash, stating common sense. Does that affect your progress at this early stage?
So the NTSB, we conduct an important safety mission where we take a very careful approach. I'm sorry, the question was on speculating during investigations, which is we often hear about. What I will say is we look at facts on our investigation, and that will take some time. And at some point, we'll be able to provide that factual information, as Member Inman said, and provide that hopefully tomorrow.
Dave Shepardson from Reuters. Have you been able to retrieve the black boxes from the helicopter? Has the military decided whether they're going to read those to the NTSB? And what about the ATC tapes? You guys can
So the question was about black boxes, which are referred to as black boxes, which are typically orange. We have not recovered any of the boxes involved yet. We feel comfortable and confident that we will be able to. Right now, recovery of life is probably most important, and those that were involved. I mean, there are still ongoing recovery efforts involving the fatalities involved, along with some debris is coming out as well. We will make sure that
TF, I'm just gonna say Gesundheit, because that's what it sounds to me.
perishable evidence is maintained. We have a great process for that. We will probably have more than one black box, so to speak. It's our understanding that the Sikorsky helicopter is equipped with some form of recording devices, and those will be read either by the DoD or by us. We have a good starting relationship with them, and we've already made agreements in order to be able to do that. So I feel comfortable in what we're going to be doing. The other question was about air traffic control. We received a very large package of information from the FAA at about 3 a.m., I believe, this morning. That is still being reviewed and analyzed. I would say there's a lot more information that usually comes in that than what you might find online, people might speculate about. And that is part of that overall process where we take the time to get the information correct and to make sure all the parties are engaged, involved, and can fact check that information.
Sir,
One.
Keep going with CNN. Can you tell me if the NTSB has reviewed this FAA internal report that has been cited by the New York Times indicating that the controller that was on duty at the time of the crash was doing a job that's usually done by 2 people?
We have not reviewed any specific reports about the controllers at this time, at least from the leadership team. Our investigators are continuing to pull all that information. Their personnel records, their files, where they were at, whether they were fatigued, all that information will be part of that investigative process. But right now, we can't speculate on anything that may have been reported in the media until we get the opportunity to validate and understand how it impacts the investigation. We're going to take just a few more questions. Sir?
Yeah, what progress will this is like bringing families in? Are they coming to the airport? And how are you going to sort of do sensitivity of
All right, so I want to get into this guy right here because the presser's almost the presser's done. So this guy, it's a 13-minute video. This guy, like the way he broke it down is fantastic. I watched lots and lots of videos today just to get like a really good picture of what's going on, and that way, because we're not here to, we can speculate, but we're not here to spread any conspiracy theories or saying like, yeah, this is exactly what happened, because we are here for the facts. And then if you guys want the facts, we're here for the facts, right? This is what the channel's about. This guy right here is he's pretty fantastic, like the way he broke everything down and the way he explained everything. Because I'm not an expert by any means in flight operations. The only expertise that I have is my best friend that is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and I worked at the airport for a little bit and got to learn about FAA and the safety standards. But I'm no expertise. I'm not a pilot, right? And then the way this guy broke it down, it was just absolutely fantastic, and it kind of puts it in perspective, as in like the realistic perspective, and where you say that, hey, this is probably communications. This is probably a human. There is no equipment failure type deal, and yeah. Oh, you didn't see this? Yeah. So this is, yeah. The rumors are spreading. The rumors are spreading out there, and it's freaking terrible. I can't. My only experience was in 3 near plane. Oh my God, 3 I had zero. My only experience with any kind of like flight is being on military flights, being on Black Hawk. Like I actually been on Black Hawk quite a bit. I've been on Chinook. I've been lots of other military flights that were extremely bumpy. So when I fly civilian flight, it's actually a luxury. Yeah. Oh, yikes. Are you insinuating that social media is toxic? Yes. I'm not insinuating it. I'm actually saying it. Okay, so let's really listen to this guy because like I said, this guy's like pretty fantastic. The way he explains it and it puts it down at like a very perspective of understanding.
Last night, I'm able to secure the actual audio from the incident over the Potomac last night. Let's listen in together.
789 contact so far today. Okay. American 3130 for the final.
You're going to see a back and forth now between Reagan Tower and the various aircraft that they have lined up on approach into the airport. This happened at about 8:46 p.m. Last evening, and you can see there's several airplanes lined up. That's typical coming in about that time of night at Reagan. They're talking to American Airlines 3130, which I think is number 2 for the runway. They're telling them to slow down to their final approach speed because they're separating everybody on the way in. It's going to turn out that American 3130 is a key player in what happens here.
Well, American 3130. Pat 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge is CRJ.
Pat 25 is the helicopter that ran into the CRJ 700. It was a PSA flight. The flight number is 5342. It would go under the call sign Blue Streak 5342. You don't ever hear them talking to tower. They've already been cleared to land on runway 33. So they would come in on an approach on runway 1, and then they would kind of circle to land on runway 33. It's a little shorter runway, but they take some of the regional jets and they put them on that runway. Pat 25 is the Black Hawk helicopter that is just south of the Woodrow Bridge, and they've just taken off. They're airborne. The tower is saying to them, there's traffic. It's a CRJ. It's at 1,200 feet, lined up for runway 33. Do you have that traffic? Pat 25 is going to call back and say yes.
It's 1,200 feet, start runway 33.
Pat 25 says, has the traffic in sight, request visual separation. What that means is that they're going to take responsibility for visual separation from that aircraft. What happened? Here's what I think happened. This is not the final word on it, but what I think happened was it was at night. There's several airplanes lined up. There is that Blue Streak 5342, which is a CRJ that they ran into. Right behind them, just a few miles, is American 3130. Everybody has their lights on as they're coming in. I believe the helicopter looked at the American 3130 and said, I've got the traffic in sight, and they never saw the airplane, the CRJ, that was right next to them. That's my conjecture on what happens.
Blind spot. It's like any kind of a traffic type of blind spot. So let me speed this up just a little bit. So one thing though, if you guys want to really listen, if you want to listen to some of the audio itself is pretty long, but we can listen to like the last portion of the audio. You let me know if we really do. Makes sense how my car accident occurred. Yeah, blind spots, right? Blind spots. All right, well, let's listen to this guy again.
American 1630 tower, runway 1, lock void, traffic direct, runway 33, dispatch 16 off final.
So this is typical stuff that's going on in a busy airport. They're lining somebody up to take off. They're saying, pay attention. I'm going to give you an immediate takeoff here. I've got traffic lining up for runway 33. That's the CRJ that got ran into. And he's on a 6-mile final. It might be somebody even behind him, but they're lining everybody up to take off into land.
With you 307, keep rolling down from November, Southwest today.
You can see at the bottom of your screen there, the CRJ, the Blue Streak 5342, they're beginning to now kind of come out a little bit to line up the runway to land on runway 33. They're not going to go right straight down the river. They got to come out a little bit wider and come in. But remember, PAT 25, which is up here, the helicopter at the middle of your screen, they've already said we accept responsibility for visual separation.
American 16, turn to 1 star 3214, Luxury 5, traffic 2 mile update from runway 33, no delay, runway 13 for B to take
There's
off.
American to
Number
take
1,
off.
clear to take off, American 1630.
Here it comes.
CRJ
Now the tower is seeing what's happening, and they're saying, "Do you have the CRJ in sight? Because you guys are getting kind of close." And the PAT 25, the helicopter, says once again, "Yeah," and I'm asking for visual separation. Okay, the responsibility is on you then.
PAT 25, pass behind this CRJ. PAT 25 has a aircraft in sight, request visual separation.
Okay, so PAT 25 says, "Has the aircraft in sight? Request visual separation." I don't think they had these guys in sight. I think they had the airplane behind them in sight. That's why this is such a tragedy.
Oh, no.
American 4782 by PAT, now for visual. American 472, Oscar 1 star 3217.
So you hear somebody in the tower go, "Oh," and they see what just happened. As you can see in your screen here, the collision took place. The tower has seen it happen in real time. They're human beings. Are reacting just like you and I would. The helicopter ran into the CRJ. The CRJ's airspace was their airspace. In front of them, behind them, on both sides of them, it was a responsibility of the helicopter to maintain visual separation. They even told him a couple times, "Do you got him in sight? Do you got him in sight?" He said, "Yep, got him in sight. I'm accepting responsibility for the separation." And I think just like when you're driving in a car and you look and you see a car behind the one that almost hit you, you see that car and you didn't see the one right here. And when you turn out in front, sometimes
Blind spot.
there's a collision.
Blind spot.
It's really tragic when this happens in an airplane. Again, it's been decades since there's been a mid-air collision in this country. This is such an unusual circumstance to take place. It's such a tragedy. It's been 12 years since there's been a fatality in a commercial airliner here in the United States. That's unprecedented.
Yeah, it's accidents happen. Car accidents happen more often than airplane accidents. And it's because we have to take it into consideration. Those are highways. Those are like space highways. I was going to say those are space highways. But no, seriously, they are air highways. And that's why we have the air traffic controllers to navigate those highways. The air traffic controllers are the stoplights, pretty much. The stoplights that we have on our roads. Yeah, crowded airspace. Exactly. So, okay, speaking of crowded airspace, there was a drone collision during LA fires. There was a drone collision with one of the Canadian airplanes, the ones that like helping out, like put out fires and stuff. A drone, like somebody like just flew a drone because they're like, oh, screw the airspace, right? I'm just gonna fly a private drone and then try to record it myself, because even though there's still a requirement, like there's still like a path requirement and some like flight requirement and everything. And they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do that, and boom, and collided with an. Anyways, it's just like, so my theory on this drone is like taking a scooter out on Autobahn in Europe. Yeah, so that's what happened. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna take my little scooter on Autobahn in Europe, where like there's lots and lots of traffic. But yes, crowded airspace. And like I said, I honestly believe it was just blind spot collision, and there's no conspiracy theories about it. There's nothing else, nothing more. It's just an accident at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and an extremely unfortunate accident. Yeah, she's taking a scooter out into Autobahns. Yeah, any aircraft pilot can have a blind spot. Exactly, they have tiny windows. was a huge airplane. It's like driving a semi truck, right? Because some semi trucks actually will tell you that if you see the sign, you're in my blind spot, and that's like this guy explains it perfectly. It's it happens. Those things happens. Like they cannot blame
And
stuff.
that wasn't a midair collision. That was just an accident. This is a midair collision, and this hasn't happened in forever. So now we know what's going on here. Pat 25, the helicopter, accepted responsibility for visual separation. They probably had their eyes on the airplane behind them, and then they tragically ran into these guys.
Did you see that? 472. American 3130, go around turn left in 250, climb maintain 3000.
So now what happens from the tower's perspective is they have to work through denial pretty fast. They just saw this happen in real time in front of them. They probably had their eyes on the airplane behind them, and then they tragically ran into these guys.
Did you see that? 472.
Oh, I said sorry.
Go around turn left in 250, climb.
Sorry, I said I wanted to come back a little bit. Oh, I didn't even realize I was muted. I wanted to come back a little bit, just a little bit back, because this guy's fantastic, and I probably should have started a live stream with his video because like this guy's like seriously pretty fantastic.
And they tragically ran into these guys.
Did you see that? 472. American 3130, go around turn left in 250, climb maintain 3000.
So now what happens from the tower's perspective is they have to work through denial pretty fast. They just saw this happen in real time in front of them. They're human beings like the rest of us. They're kind of in shock, but they've still got airplanes coming in. They've got American Airlines 1630, which just took off. They've got to hand them off to departure. They got American 3130 that's coming in. They got American 472 behind them. They got to do something with these airplanes. Right? The airplane port is going to be shut here in a second. So they're going to start telling all these guys to go around while they're trying to handle the emergency and get the emergency equipment out. And all of that is everybody's kind of in a little fog for a few seconds here while all.
Yeah, so welcome to emergency management world, because anything happens like this and you still are human, you react to certain things, right? But then your automatic brain kicks in because you have to do this. So these guys, obviously at the tower, like at the airport, they saw what happened, so they have to automatically start activating the fire department. The fire department had to get the ARF vehicles, which is like their aircraft firefighting vehicles. And then they had to like while they're driving, they most likely have to. Well, yeah, while they're driving, they had to get the information as like the location where they have to go, like the things that they had to do, what are they seeing, and then the air traffic controllers, they have to like let them know what is happening. So there's so much communication happening at that time as well, and the response, and it's like that's the thing about being a first responder and emergency manager. Like you really have to know how to keep your cool in these kind of situations where you just let me process later what happened. And the fact that also the people at the tower that working at the tower, they have to go through extensive training to even be at that tower, to even like get this kind of job. It's not your 911 dispatcher, even though they have to get extensive training to be 911 dispatchers as well. Those are the kind of jobs that are very, very demanding and very lots of training has to go to. So whenever like people out there are saying like, oh, it's a diversity and inclusion and blah blah blah, and then everything else. No, it's do not blame that. Do not blame saying like, oh, the mental health, they hire anybody. No, 100% no, because it's this training that those people that have to go through, and then the mentality that they have to be able to maintain, not to break under pressure type deal mentality. It's, anyways, let's continue on. I think I'm just started rambling upon I don't know, I really don't want to get into politics. I heard so much stuff doing it.
All of this is taking place. The tragedy of it hits you hard, and they're very professional. Watch how they handle this, but man, they're busy.
Okay, left heading 350, 3000, American 3130. Tower boost streak 5347 is on final. Request runway 33, circle to 33. Second heading for American 3130.
American 3130, go out to left end 270, fly maintain 3000.
270 on the heading, 3000.
See how fast he's talking? He's trying to get all these other airplanes out of here.
Crash. This is alert 3. Crash.
Okay, what's MWAA? It's the Metro Washington Airport Authority. Every airport has some sort of governing authority over it. Many times it's called the Port Authority. Up in Boston, it's Mass Port, right? In New York, it's the Port Authority. Down here in Washington, it's the Metro Washington Airport Authority. They're now announcing officially there's a crash. So they go over the radio and they broadcast to everybody. The tower is the main recipient of this, that there's been a crash. He's going to repeat that. That puts a whole bunch of things into motion all at the same time. The fire crews now are going to jump in their uniforms. They're going to get in their fire trucks. They're going to drive to where the crash is. There's going to be details about this coming, but this whole thing is very frenzied and happens very fast. But these are really highly trained professionals. They do a really terrific job.
Alert 3. Crash. This is alert 3.
And alert 3 is a crash.
Oh, shit. Where's the alert 3? It is off the approaching the runway 33. Approaching the runway 33. Helicopter crash. Helicopter. Copy out this morning. Crash. This is alert 3. 2 helicopters.
Okay, so again, fog of war. The first report that they get is that it's 2 helicopters. They're going to clarify this really quickly because the tower is talking back and forth to him. The tower's going to say, nope, it was a...
Al, be careful, because you can listen, but pay attention. No blind spots. Listen, do not comment. Listen.
CRJ and a helicopter. So they get this, because it's cleared up pretty fast.
Well, helicopter CRJ approaching runway 33.
That's really fast.
The approaching runway 33, a mile off final. Crash. Kilo CRJ approaching 33. Okay. How many souls on board? We don't have any of that information. Tower's reporting a CRJ and a helicopter crash.
So they're passing the information back and forth to the first responders who need it. Everybody's trying to clarify while they're jumping in their trucks and they're heading out there. Now they know exactly where they're going. It's at the approach end of runway 33. It's somewhere in the Potomac. Now they're going to have to coordinate boats and other things. Eventually they're going to get helicopters involved.
Oh, so that's another thing. Is so they got rerouted in the midair from runway 1, which is their original runway they were supposed to go, to runway 33, and then they got rerouted by a tower. Not sure exactly why, that they haven't actually came out with the reasons why, but I can probably guarantee you because of the traffic jam. Remember, it's airspace, right? It's airspace. It's just like highways. We get congestion in airspace and everybody wants to fly somewhere and everybody's demanding. It's like, oh, I need to go here. I need to go there. And then sometimes the flights get delayed. Sometimes flights get rerouted. It's okay. It's like riding a bus. It's like riding a ferry. It's commuting. Anyways, let's continue on.
Can we go ahead and hold all operations till we have emergency units respond? We're going to go ahead and show the aerodrome closed.
They want to close the airport so they can go.
Yeah, that's affirmative. Hold all operations, aerodrome closed.
Everything's closed now.
And everybody just hold your positions, please, on the field right now.
Okay, so this is the ground controller. Now, the ground controller is the one that's going to get all these trucks going where they need to go. But the
Ground control to major. Anyways, sorry. I had to. I really had to.
Ground controller needs to stop all the airplanes. So she just makes a blanket broadcast. Everybody stop right where you are. Every once in a while, you kind of half hear that, and then you say, okay, I'm sorry. And there's also people asking to be released from their gate to go. They're not into what's going on yet because they just put their headsets on and they're just getting ready to go. One aircraft's going to ask to do this, and she's just going to say, everybody stop.
South 43, ready for taxi.
Everyone's going to have to hold for down.
No.
I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. Fire command, the accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. It's east of the approach end of runway 33.
It's amazing to me how much clarity they have about actually what happened and where it happened. And many times in an accident like this, it takes 5 to 10 minutes just to get everything sorted out. They're very good.
So he said that's amazing to him, and then he's a pilot, like experienced pilot, and also to me it's amazing, like being being on the ground with a lot of response and actually seeing a lot of stuff happening. It is amazing to me as well how fast they were able to identify the location, the exact everything. What that shows to me is how much, like, the eyes that are watching all of this, like their people are just watching how good they are at their job. That's what shows to me. And honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna take a downfall for this. I think the conclusion is just gonna come out as miscommunication. That really is it. It just blamed accident, miscommunication. Yeah. Everyone needs a little daily ground control to Major Tom.
Good here at getting it all very concise, and so the response time was phenomenal on this.
Is the airfield closed?
Yes, the airfield is closed. The airfield is closed.
Runways as well?
Okay, ARF is the Aircraft Rescue and Firefighters.
Oh, I was
That's the
saying
actual
that
fire
earlier.
chief that's in the fire truck. He's asking, is the airport closed and are all the runways closed as well? That way he can expedite getting out there. He doesn't have to stop and ask, can I cross this runway? Can I go on that taxiway? She's about to tell him the whole place is shut down. You go. You own the airport now.
All runways are closed. Nobody's landing. No one's moving at all.
And we have clearance across all taxiways and runways, correct?
Yes, you have clearance through the whole field, all taxiways and runways.
So basically she's saying to these guys, go. And at that moment, the fire trucks take off. What we know about the accident at this point is that there were no survivors. It's now a recovery operation.
All right, so yeah, and it's, so he goes on about like actually talking about the accident, and yes, it's absolutely devastating stuff that's happening, and they haven't come out with a list of casualties yet, but it's my heart goes out to the victims' families, 100%. So I have this other video, and then this other guy, like, he's pretty good too. What I'm gonna do, I'm actually going to link both of their channels into the description, because these guys are really good. The way they explain it, they're very professional, and then their basic channels about like their air traffic or accidents or anything that has to pertain to all of this. So the way he explains it is a little bit more technical than the other guy does, but it's It's really good. Like, it's one of my favorites. And like I said, I watched so many different YouTube videos today, and then how people were saying, and because we're here to cover the facts instead of just speculation, like we're actually looking at what is happening on the ground with the facts, not speculation, not we do not do the blame game or anything. So this guy, this guy is pretty good as well.
The 30th of January, we now have a lot more information about the tragic mid-air collision between the military helicopter and the American Airlines regional jet while on final approach to runway 33 at Washington's Ronald Reagan International Airport. My name is Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel. Let's check it out. We now know that the Black Hawk helicopter was on a published helicopter route, presumably heading down to Davison Army Airfield located to the south of DCA. If you go to SkyVector Aeronautical Charts, and let me move this out of the way, click on the DC helicopter chart button, you'll get this chart that shows these published routes through the Class Bravo airspace. This helicopter was operating on Route 1 coming down the Potomac River from the north and then transitioning to Route 4 and continuing the route to the south towards Davison Army Airfield. If we look closely at Route 1, the maximum altitude located right here is 200 feet, and this route is to hug the eastern shoreline of the Potomac River. This route needs to be flown at or below 200 feet to stay below the arrivals into DCA. Not until you get below or south of the Wilson Bridge are you then allowed to climb to 300 feet, maximum altitude. These are visual routes flown in visual or VFR conditions. This is very tight hemmed-in airspace as you've got the prohibited areas of the White House and the Pentagon located right up here, and you've got the airspace of DCA Airport located right here. There's 3 runways at Washington, DCA. Runway 1 is the main runway, 7,169 feet long, and that's the runway that this RJ was originally lined up to land on. But at the request of ATC, the RJ was asked to come around and land on runway 33, the shorter runway at just 5,200 feet. This is a very demanding approach and very busy airspace. Not only do you got to stay within the tight constraints of the airspace, but you also, the runways are short, so you got to get it right on the end of the runway, requiring all of your attention. The approach that the RJ was initially cleared for was the visual approach to runway 1, which looks like this, which brings you straight up the river to land on runway 1. Now with the RJ coming in from the south and then circling around to land on runway 33, that puts the RJ pretty much beak to beak with the helicopter, with the RJ above the helicopter. The problem is, and this has been reported by other helicopter Black Hawk pilots that have flown this exact route and have seen this exact scenario, the problem is going beak to beak at night, the lights of the RJ tend to blend in with the city lights behind you, even though the RJ is a little bit above the helicopter. Another problem when you're going head to head with each other is if there's no lateral movement in the windscreen, that light is very hard to detect. Now, eventually, the RJ has to make the left-hand turn to land on runway 33, and that puts the helicopter onto the right side of the RJ. Now, very late into this transition, the tower controller here at the airport asks the helicopter, do you have the RJ jet in sight? To which the helicopter responds, yes, we have the RJ in sight, request visual separation. That hands off the responsibility of the separation of these 2 aircraft to that of the helicopter pilot. The ATC asks the helicopter pilot to then pass behind the RJ, to which the helicopter responds affirmative, but instead he runs right into the RJ. Complicating things may be the use of night vision goggles. Pete Hegseth mentioned in his press briefing that night vision goggles were being used on this training flight. It's believed that they were using the late model night vision goggles, these AN/AVS-9 white phosphor goggles. The problem with these NVGs is that they restrict your peripheral vision, and it's harder to visualize the depth perception in these.
That's right. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier is they did use the night vision goggles. And like I said, it's the annual requirement. It's any flight is a training flight. Every single flight is a training flight, and it's not. Yeah. So the perception is flat in the NVGs, but these guys can have like 5,000 flight hours, and it's not like any newbie. They have to have a professional on the flight crew as well.
NVGs. And usually if a helicopter crew's on NVGs, both pilots would be on NVGs at the same time in case they actually are in the real goo and one pilot's NVGs has a problem, the other one can continue to fly the aircraft safely. So let's take a listen to the actual ATC audio and see how this played out. Please support Victor at VAS Aviation on Patreon, as he takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to get this ATC communications down and overlaid on a proper radar animation.
Tower C5342 on Mount Vernon visual runway 1. Lucy 5342, Washington Tower 1 star 320 17 25. Can you take runway 33? Yeah, we can do 33 for Blue 5342. Blue 5342, that's Wilson Bridge. Thanks for runway 33, runway 33, clear for land. Thanks for runway 33, runway 33 for land, Blue 5342.
Okay, there's the initial call up from Blue Streak 5342. He's on the visual for runway 1, and then the tower asks him to transition to runway 33. So here's the regional jet just this far away from the runway, and here's Pat 25, the helicopter, working his way down Route 1 on the Potomac River. Now, one of the other...
Oh, and then right after this, we're going to do the flight tracker. Like, I'm going to try to find the time again, so that way you can guys be able to see it.
Holes in the Swiss cheese are the frequencies. The frequencies are split. The tower controller can listen to both the helicopter and the RJ. However, the helicopter is on a separate frequency from the RJ. So the RJ cannot hear the helicopter, and I don't believe the helicopter can hear the RJ. So the airline pilot is missing half of the conversation, thus reducing his situational awareness slightly. But if you can see from here, if he's going to circle around to runway 33, that's going to put him directly in conflict with Pat 25, where the controller is going to rely upon the altitude difference of just a couple hundred feet between these two aircraft to maintain separation. And the controller is also going to rely on the helicopter to maintain visual separation from the RJ. Now let's check out Victor's most recent video here, where he's done an excellent job of overlaying this over the helicopter route map. Here you can see the Route 1 that Pat 25 is flying. And here is the RJ, already offsetting to the right to make a left base entry to runway 33.
Yeah, 79, contact don't work today. Okay. American 3130 for the final. Well, American 3130. Pat 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet for runway 33.
That's traffic site, special separation.
This separation through. American 1630 tower runway 1 left void, traffic through Alpha runway 33, this traffic 16 on final. Runway 1.
This is in real time.
5307. Keep rolling out to November, Trump 47 today. American 1631 star 32014, Duck 25. Traffic 2 mile left base runway 33. No delay, runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff. Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630. Pat 25, get the CRJ in sight. Pat 25, pass behind this CRJ.
Pat 12 has a aircraft in sight, press separation.
This separation. American 4782 by Bath number and visual. American 472 Washington Tower 1 star 32017.
As we look at these two targets merge, check out the altitude. Pat 25 at 200 feet as required on the route. It looks like he's slightly to the right of the route. Now he's up to 300 feet. He's 100 feet high. The CRJ descending to 500 feet, 400 feet, and then finally 400 feet. Pat 25 still at 300 feet. There, the altitudes merge right at the collision. I also want to point out this. There's another aircraft behind the RJ that was involved in the collision, another American Airlines Jet 3130. Remember, the CRJ is owned by PSA Airlines, is a fully owned subsidiary of American Eagle, but has the call sign of Blue Streak. But this second aircraft behind the RJ may have been the aircraft that the helicopter mistakenly picked up on, or he could have been picking
Blind spots. That's what it is. It's and the fact that like this is the second professional, not like politically driven, actually professional, confirming this.
Picking up one of the aircraft that were taking off. It's more likely than not that the crew of the helicopters picked up on the wrong target to see and avoid. So a lot of holes in the classic Swiss cheese model of accident investigations that the NTSB will be reviewing, including the runway change from runway 1 to runway 33, which put these two aircraft on a more tighter collision course, the altitude control of the helicopter on his training flight getting above 200 feet right directly into the way of the airliner, the possible use of night vision goggles, if that was a player.
Hey, that a free sandwich. By the way, welcome. I always love seeing you here. I love seeing everybody here. But yeah, no, you're right. Actually, this I was wondering that myself if they're packing things closer lately because like this airport is one of the most congested and most monitored airports in United States, right? It's because the restricted airspace that they have, and then plus it's a Class B airspace, which is like a high, like a really high regulated airspace because of the White House, Pentagon. Like there's multiple other places around it. So the position of this airport, and I've been to that airport. It's pretty nuts because like when I was at the airport, I was looking out, the window, and I got to see Marine One practicing the drills like taking off, landing, and taking off, landing. And Marine One is one of the presidential helicopters, the military helicopters that they use. So it's an extremely congested airspace in this airport, and I wonder, because of the high air travel demand, and the more frequent flights that people want to get, and the convenience they want to get, and it could be because everybody's like try to pack everything into those flights and stuff, and I don't know. Big corporations want to save money or something, but this is going into the speculations of the corporation money hungry thing. So I don't know. But yeah, I was wondering that myself.
That was a factor that could certainly limit your situational awareness and your ability to see and avoid visually. The late call out by the air traffic control tower to the helicopter asking him if he sees the RJ in sight after the air traffic controller got the collision avoidance warning there in his cab. The fact that night visual approaches, trying to see and avoid, that the lights of the aircraft, especially if they're oncoming directly to you, tend to blend in with the lights of the city behind you. Flying C-130s up at the Reno National Guard for years, coming into Reno, it was very difficult to see your formation partner aircraft in front of you as they would tend to blend into those city lights. The separate frequencies that the two different aircraft were operating on, giving you only half of the situational awareness that you would normally have if you could hear both sides of the conversation. And finally, the limits of TCAS, traffic collision avoidance systems, with the present technology where resolution advisories are disabled below 1,000 feet to avoid sending one aircraft into a descending RA into the ground, plus the limitation of no aural warnings from the TCAS below 500 feet. All these things are going to be looked at closely in this investigation. Thank you so much for your support.
But yeah, he's right. Like all of those things will be like really taken a look at closely. And the question is like, or maybe they're making things tight with the schedule as well. Yes. This is one speculation that I would not mind getting into, is the actual airlines, and because by hearing what the evidence is out there right now, coming there from air traffic control, from actually, listening to what the guy said at the Black Hawk, and then plus the audio from the airplane. Maybe because they were trying to like tighten it something, reroute something, manipulate something, and those corporations, if we want to blame somebody, let's blame the American Airlines. Let's blame them. Let's do that. Like if we want to do the blaming game and stuff, let's blame the American Airlines, not the pilot, not the pilots, that are actually flying both of the aircraft, because I can guarantee you that the Black Hawk helicopter pilots got clearance to do all of this, and they had extremely trained staff to do one of those flights, and they got the clearance to go. There are so many factors that are involved. It's not like Apocalypse Now. You're like, yeah, get in the chopper, and then you just fly. No, there's a pre-plan, there's a flight schedule, there's a huge bowl game that has to go with just to have a flight. And yeah, it could be because of the tight knit, scheduling, rerouting. They didn't know which, because there's so many flights are coming in. They didn't know how to route them, and so they unfortunately had to reroute this flight from original landing, to original landing strip to another landing strip. They had to reroute them in midair, and yeah, it's poor families for sure. Corporation greed. Yeah, they need to consider safety over profit. Thank you. Yes. But see, the thing is, I did some safety inspections in my past, right? And the safety inspections that I have done, a lot of the times where it's like, come on, this is extreme safety hazard. It's really, I'm not gonna go into specifics, but it's an extreme safety hazard. But they're like, oh, well, we don't have money for improvement, or they had to do budget cuts, or they had to do this. This is every single time, this is the factor, is the companies are not incorporating a safety issue, the safety, they're not incorporating or allocating the money into the safety or emergency management, or because what do you think emergency management is? It's not just responding to this and that. It's prevention. And so they're not allocating money into prevention. And if you allocate money into prevention, stuff like this would most likely not happen. And a lot of the times, businesses are very reactive instead of proactive. I actually had somebody tell me before, a while back, that it's like, oh, why do we need emergency operations center if we've never been activated? Okay, so it's the same question I'm going to ask you. Why do you need a fire department if it has never been activated? Or why do you need a police department if you don't have anybody to arrest? Or or prevent something, right? It's because of prevention. It's like, why do you need insurance on your house if your house has never burned down? Or why do you need insurance on your boat if your boat has never sinked, right? It's all about prevention. And there are so many people out there, so many businesses out there that are doing budget cuts. And when it comes to prevention, they're like, oh, what is this? Or when it comes to safety, it's like, oh, what is that? We don't need to allocate money into that. We don't need staffing. We don't need that extra staff and over there so we can monitor their planes coming in. Oh, speaking of another thing that I'm actually quite disturbed about. So they only had one person monitoring this, and I believe the requirement is at least two. It's like staff cuts, right? The people are doing multiple jobs at once because there's businesses do not want to hire people that are extremely trained and capable of doing their job, and that's it. Staffing issue, overworking because of budget cuts, or because they just want to make money. That's it. But they don't realize that safety comes first. That's why you need your emergency managers. That's why you need your fire departments. That's why you need air traffic controllers. That's why you need your dispatchers. And then that's why you need extremely highly trained personnel that are out there and that doing their job. Okay. Xana's done with her rant. Let's get back into this. So I was going to actually flight tracker. Flight radar. So I think this will be the last thing that I'll be showing you guys tonight, and then we can call it yes, redundancies. That's right. Okay, so flight tracker. I have to thank my husband for the flight radar and teaching me how to use it, and actually have a paid subscription to it. So there's a playback button. Oh, by the way, UTC, it's a universal time, and then there's a UTC that's what's used by all of the airlines and like all of the flight. So that way, because obviously there are so many time zones, so UTC is like the universal time. And I think it happened at 1:45 on the 30th. Yeah. Wait, what? Oh, we're still in LA. Oops. Nope, we're still in LA. Let's travel to DC this time around. Baltimore, DC. There we go. Okay, so looks like let me see. Okay, so already helicopters are here, so the flight looks like it was okay, so the helicopters are here already. Okay, there it is. Slow the speed down a little bit. So this is the flight, and this is where it came in. You can see this is the flight. No, that's not it. This is flight came in into the landing strip 1, and then there it is. So this is the flight right here, and it stopped. All right, let's play this again. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So you can see, like, so this is where the crash actually happened. So the flight is coming in. Let me speed it down. This is, so there it is. There you go. So this is the flight that's coming in. Oh, wait, oh, is that it? Yeah. Yep, that's it. So that's the flight. And it just kind of like turned back and didn't understand what was happening. That's it right here. And then after a while, it just disappears. So you can tell on the flight tracker the way, so zoom in just a little bit more. So you can tell on the flight tracker because like they're expecting, expecting like the flight coming in and stuff, but you can tell on the flight tracker that it's like went in. Where is it? Where's the flight? Oh, there it is. It's coming. So this one. So this is where it diverted to 33, runway 33. And it went around towards the highway. So just because it got diverted to this runway right here. So the flight's coming in to land. And we do not see the helicopter here, but the collision happened right here. And so it looks like the flight's still going, but it's stopped in the midair. And you see how it rerouted, and it's going to come back into the same position because this is where it stopped. The radar stopped of tracking it. And then it just kind of like sits there for a little bit, and then it disappears. Right? And then the radar, it's all because this is like right after the collision, and it disappears. So shortly after that, because all of the flights are grounded, and shortly after this, there we go, it disappeared. So shortly after that, you get to see the different helicopters. So there's helicopter 1, already start doing its rounds. Already start doing its rounds and stuff. There's another helicopter that we see. They'll start doing its rounds. So it's already been activated. There's more helicopters in the area. Yeah, so this is where the search is going underway. I love Flight Tracker because it really shows you everything. Anyways, so there's more and more and more that you can see. Hello, Turtle Site. Welcome. Okay, so I think we're gonna end this live because we are going on about 2 hours so far. I wanted to thank everybody who stuck around with me for this duration, and thanks for this stream. Of course. Yeah, I wanted to like really thank everybody who like stuck around here and got to listen some of actual facts, from my perspective, but also from there's so much speculation online. No, do not believe. It's not a conspiracy theory, and I am 80% sure that it has to deal with miscommunication. Like I said, 80%. There's 20 other percent. There's a big variable that is a human error, plus the corporations are trying to do more with dense airspace. That is it. So, but yeah, 80% sure that it's miscommunication. Unfortunately, the lives have been lost. I wanted to share this tab really fast. So this right here is the unit, the military, the National Guard unit that lost 3 of its members today, 3 of the flight crew today. And there's some of the comments, and they came out and said that Our deepest condolences go out to all of the families and friends impacted during this tragedy, and we will support them through this difficult time. Our top priority is to assist in the recovery efforts while fully cooperating with National Transportation Safety Board, the Federal Aviation Administration, and other investigative agencies to determine the cause. While the investigation is ongoing, we are committed to transparency and we will share accurate updates as soon as they become available. While performing a training mission, it's an annual required training exercise. Not a training mission where like, hey, I'm gonna train. Every mission is a training mission. The United States Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter from Bravo Company 12th Aviation Battalion Division Army Airfield at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, collided in midair with an American Airlines Bombardier last night at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. The FAA, NTSB, and United States Army will investigate. The NTSB will lead the investigation. We are working with local officials and provide any additional information once it becomes available. So, yeah, so this is this is the unit that actually came out and said that. So, yeah, I appreciate everybody who's been here. Al, I hope you drive safe. Don't be texting and driving. Watch out for the blind spots. I all love you. Let's just say your friendly emergency manager is here. So be you, be true, stay to yourself, and Xana's out. Good night, guys and gals and everybody else. Good night. Play outro.